So have you heard of the 4B movement? Well, it started out as a niche feminist movement in South Korea where women boycotted men as a way to reclaim agency over their own bodies. Well, now more American women are turning to 4B following the U.S. election. Many of them feel like their reproductive rights are on the line. And here to explain more about the movement is our Chronically Online columnist, associate producer, Ashley Moliere is with us. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
First off, tell us, I knew about this movement. I didn't know it was called 4B, but tell us a little more about where it comes from.
Yeah, so the movement started back in the mid-2010s in South Korea, and the term itself comes from the 4B words in Korean that roughly translate to no marriage, no childbirth, no romance, and no sex with men. So it started to become a little bit more mainstream in and around 2016 after a really tragic incident. A 34-year-old man murdered a 23-year-old woman in a public bathroom in Seoul's Gangnam Station because, in his words, women have always ignored him. So the incident sparked outrage because he wasn't charged with a hate crime. And that kind of raised a bigger question about violence against women in South Korea. Mm-hmm. And the movement really started to spread from there online and protest and that sort of thing.
And would we think of that as a kind of the equivalent of an incel movement here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately,
yeah, exactly.
And so then tell me about then some of the other reasons women are participating in this movement then.
So like other countries around the world, South Korea has really become more and more gender polarized in recent years. So their president, Yoon Suk-yeol, is quite conservative. And he's even said the feminism is to blame for the country's low birth rate. Yep, he said that. There's also the issue of the gender gap, which is very wide in Korea. Mm-hmm. According to the Korea Times, women were paid 31.2% less than men in 2022. So in addition to this pay gap issue, the high cost of living, some South Korean women just say like they are not getting equal support in a relationship and when it comes to raising a child and doing things around the house. So they're just kind of fed up with that.
And has this actually had a tangible impact then in South Korea?
So, although it has become more mainstream in the past few years, it's hard to actually gauge the popularity in raw numbers and data. But, as there's no definitive link so far, South Korea does have the lowest fertility rate. It did in 2023. Numbers released earlier this year show that the rate fell 8% last year to 0.72. It's getting so dire there that back in May, the president asked for the parliament's help to create a new ministry to address this, quote, national emergency called the Ministry of Low Birth Rate Counter Planning to try to boost it. There's even a construction company, Buyang Group, that announced earlier this year it would pay its employees 75,000 won, which is the Korean dollar, each if they had a baby. So, we're starting to see the country get a little bit desperate here. For couples who do have children or decide to have children, the government does provide subsidies and has promised more to come. So, things like longer paternity leave, more flexible work schedules, just trying to do what they can. Again, it's hard to link this to the 4B movement itself, but a lot of the reasons overlap. So, yeah, it's, women across the world are starting to face similar issues. So the movement is getting more popular outside of Korea.
It's interesting because South Korea does a lot of countries have a low birth rate, but so does it's falling in Italy, Japan, most G7 countries, and Canada as well.
Yeah, Canada as well. The UK, yep.
Yeah. So all of this is getting attention. Well, it's getting a lot of attention everywhere, but particularly in the U.S. right now for reasons I can guess.
I wonder why. Yeah. So, following the election results, videos and discussions really started to pop up on TikTok, Instagram, X, all about explaining what the 4B movement is And, some of the reasons behind that, well, some are citing the fact that President-elect Donald Trump has been accused of sexual assault and found liable for sexual abuse in civil court. He's also made moves to limit reproductive rights for women during his last presidency by nominating conservative Supreme Court judges who ultimately helped overturn Roe v. Wade a couple years ago. And people are scared this is going to continue in the next 4 years, as particularly women, and that their rights will be infringed upon even more. There's also been a lot of chatter online, kind of disturbing chatter from right-wing self-proclaimed incels spreading phrases like "your body, my choice" when referencing women's rights. And so after Trump's victory, online searches for the movement surged on Google across the U.S., and according to Rolling Stone, the 4B movement subreddit doubled its user base after the election results came through. And now there's even a subsection of the movement that I've seen online of women shaving their heads to declare that they're part of this movement as an act to show, make themselves ugly in a way to men. And, it's obviously way too early to say, it's really gaining traction. But it'll be interesting to see over time if this movement, does something down there, or if people really start to get on board with it. I don't know.
And as you said, you've got a president-elect that, just before the election, a few days before the election, said whether the women like it or not, I'm going to protect them.
Yeah.
So this movement isn't new, and we kind of get the idea about, I guess, why it's resonating now. Part of it is the political climate. Why else do you think?
I think just overall women are really sick of their bodies being this political spectacle and being a topic of conversation. We're in 2024, why it keeps being brought up is this center point in elections is just mind-boggling for a lot of women. And it's just, I find it's sad that it's gotten this extreme in a way when all women are asking for is, equal partnership and respect. And if they're going to have kids, having men also share the parenting and doing things around the house and, having equality in the workplace so that they can raise their families the way they want to be able to do that. I spoke with Dr. Yuthika Girmay, associate producer in psychology at SFU about this. And we kind of got talking, and I just said to her, I was like, I don't know how you feel, but I just feel like a lot of these policies, even when government bring things in to try to convince people to have kids, they're very, geared towards women versus other men and women or a couple. And I said, I don't know. I just have this, and she's like, yeah, no, she validated what I was saying. And, we just talked about that and had a conversation about how it needs to be a little bit broader. So take a listen to what she had to say.
It should be a much broader two-pronged approach where we're not only helping support women's decision-making and support women in whatever role they are wanting to pursue, but at the same time, we also need to be creating policies and educational kind of supports that help support boys and men about how they can also be supportive partners, be better sort of really engaged in their romantic relationships, and at a family level, what they can do to support their families if and when them and their female partners or male partners even choose to have children.
Yeah, so that was Dr. Yuthika Girmay, associate professor in the psychology department at SFU, just talking about how it needs to be, more of a two-pronged approach, and that men definitely need to be included in the conversation. And when it comes to, just educating them on relationships and child rearing and exactly. Exactly.
Point taken, Ashley. Thank you.
No problem. A little bit more serious today, Tom, but it's important.
Yeah, it is. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
really
no
appreciate
worries.
it. CBC's Ashley Moliere.